So today I came across a very interesting medium. He sounded pretty intelligent at first, like he said that he's made loads of books.
I'd like to welcome back to the show returning champion, Paul Selig. How you doing, Paul?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming all the way down here to Next Level Soul Studios and joining me live. We've done, I think this is episode 5 that we've done.
It could well be.
I think this is the 5th one we've done together, and you're in a rare club of the 5-timer club. That I've been on this show. That's how much I love having you and our conversations. And I really appreciate you coming down to do this live for the first time. So I appreciate it.
I'm really glad to be asked. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And we're going to have an interesting conversation, but we're also going to be talking about your new book, A World Made New, by the Guides. And we were just talking that you have no idea what this is anymore. You forgot what you wrote.
Mostly I forget what I wrote. I haven't done the audiobook yet. And it's when I sit down and I do the audiobook and I have to read the transcripts, that's really the first time that I really read the material.
Wow.
Because when the books are being dictated, I remember maybe a third of what comes through. Yeah. I mean, I wish I had that kind of ability to just spit out books, because you spit them out once a year at least, right? That's how it's been, yeah.
And how many years have you been doing? How many books do you have?
This is the
now?
12th book.
And do they have a expiration of how many more they want to do, or is it just going to keep going?
Well, they've said that this book is the end of the teaching that began with the first book, which was called I Am the Word.
Right.
So this sort of is the completion of the first teaching, and they're starting another one. So I know that there's 2 more. I know that much. I don't know what they are yet, but they said we have 2 more that we want to dictate, so they'll come.
My gosh, kind of like Harry Potter, like after the first 7 books, or whatever, 6 books.
So I was just sunbathing and kind of listening to him, but I found it actually very hard to listen to the conversation because I just found it so boring, like I couldn't tune in. And then I was just kind of tuning in and out and sunbathing and enjoying the sun. And then I kind of woke up at a stage where he was actually doing the channeling that he was talking about. You know?
What can I do for myself today that's positive? And I heard a voice and it told me what to do. How you think about something contributes to the thing itself and informs the thing itself. We prefer to think of ourselves as victims to what we encounter, but in fact that's not the case. So to move to a level of accountability to those things, how we perceive the government or the bank or all those things, that's what can allow change in other kinds of ways. When you reinforce the darkness, indeed it will rise. Indeed it will rise. Now when you pray for someone, I wish them well, that's all fine. That's all fine, but the realization of the divine, or knowing the presence of the divine, or knowing the presence of the divine where the other seems to be, or the situation is, or the situation is, actually alters the thing, or lifts the being to a higher tone, where change can occur, to know God, no means realize, and no means realize where God has been abandoned, is restoration, to lift the thing, to see the thing in a higher octave, is for it to be made new,
He gave a big long intro about his ability and all the research that he's done to be able to channel these spirits that he's channeling. And then I was listening to what the spirits were actually saying whilst he was doing this channeling, and I was like, oh my God, does he not realize that what the spirits are saying is complete nonsense mostly? I don't know what he's doing, I don't know what he's contacting, but a lot of it sounds like inversion, because it's like somehow it seems truthful, but if you think about it, it's like, no, it's not. And he just speaks extremely fast and just goes on and on and on and on. But really, I think most of it is just gibberish and nonsense and repetitive things that just aren't related to the question that he was trying to answer. And then he kind of wakes up as if he doesn't realize that what he said is actually just a load of nonsense and bullshit. And then he goes on and talks very intelligently about how, these guides are just there to help.
I don't know how long I can sit in a chair and do this. I mean, I'm grateful for it. I don't understand it.
Sure.
But every time with these books, because I don't even know what they're called until they deliver it. I don't know the title. I don't know anything. I sit in a chair and I hear, we have a book to write, and then they said, this is chapter 1, and bang, 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 and that's how it comes. It's all spoken. There's no writing. So I don't even when I first had to transcribe the books from the recordings, I knew more because I was having to listen so carefully.
Right.
And now somebody else gets to do that, which is fine by me.
and stuff. And I'm just thinking, look, if you actually stop and listen to what these guides are telling you and actually think about it, there's a lot of things in it that are just not true. And so I just want to show it. And I guess I don't believe that these people are channeling spirits. I think he's far more intelligent when he's just talking rationally and talking one-on-one. When he starts channeling these spirits, I don't know what goes on, but he's not channeling anything intelligent. He's not channeling anything that knows about me. And I just wish that he would see this, I guess. But I don't believe in spirits. I don't think people are channeling spirits, unless of course it's their own spirit, their own personal spirit. I believe in that. So I kind of want to show why I don't believe this.
Our frequencies, today's humanity is very different than it was 20 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. And with that level of frequency, that knowledge is opened up. Ideas that we're ready for open up when these frequencies get to a certain place. Why Genghis Khan didn't have the nuclear bomb. If not, we would have destroyed ourselves comfortably at that stage in our evolution. Is that, first of all, do you agree with that idea?
Okay, so I'm trying to figure this out. That is the question, even though it didn't actually seem like a question, because the main point of it was Genghis something had a bomb. Do you agree with that? And I have no idea what he said.
Genghis Khan didn't have the nuclear bomb. If not, we would have destroyed ourselves.
I don't know who Genghis Khan is. Kind of sounds like you're saying if King Kong had a bomb, that big giant monkey, but that's not a real person. Please speak in English. I have absolutely no idea what this kind of question is.
Our frequencies, today's humanity is very different than it was 20 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. And with that level of frequency, that knowledge is opened up.
Because it's like, so as time goes on, you've developed a higher level of frequency, and your higher level of frequency is able to tap you into more knowledge. I don't think it works like that. I think you get smarter over time, and you are able to understand things more, just like a child who is in first grade. They have a basic level of understanding of how to speak English, and then as time progresses, you start developing more vocabulary, remembering bigger words, remembering more complex meanings for different words and stuff, and better ways of explaining things, and over time you gain more intelligence. So I don't think it's got anything to do with frequency. Okay, I'm not a spiritualist, so I don't really understand or believe in this frequency. I think you just get better over time. If I was to try and make these videos 11 years ago, I wouldn't have done a very good job, because I didn't have the experience of being able to explain myself in certain ways. Over time, I am repeating myself over and over again, but I find that I'm able to explain myself far better, and I'm also gaining more knowledge because I've watched more videos, and I have now more points of views, more things to add into the conversation that I'm having. I guess in a way you can say that my frequency is higher, but I would say the only reason why my frequency is higher is because I have already gained more knowledge. So you gain the knowledge and your frequency gets higher, because your spirit has more knowledge and more memories to tap into to try and help you talk well or present yourself better. And this explains why society has more knowledge, because a few thousand years ago, everyone would have been living their first, second or third lives. You might have had a couple of people like Eminem who were living their ninth life, but they would have been very few, and they would have been people that society didn't really accept because they didn't see that as being intelligent. They thought that was stupid. It's only a few hundred years later did they start reading or finding the Bible and being like, okay, there is some intelligence to this, but they wouldn't have seen that at the time that these people were alive. But a few hundred years ago, there would have been thousands, perhaps even millions of people on their ninth life. Hence, there was a much greater awareness, because there were far more people that were far more developed, and a lot of people that were more developed working together, made this the new norm and this the new intelligence. Hence, the people with this higher knowledge, higher frequency, they would be able to tap into more complex designs of buildings, and you would have more skills, and they would pass this sort of ability to the younger ones, and the younger ones would be able to develop faster, not because of a higher frequency, but just because they're getting better training from the ones that have had more lives. And so, this is how things are progressing. It's not that the knowledge is coming from people getting a higher frequency, but it's that people are getting a higher amount of knowledge and are gaining more information, and this is forming a higher frequency. The word frequency is actually in reference to repetition and things going over and over again. Now, for example, beep, 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 that's a low frequency, and beep, 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 beep is a high frequency. Now, if you imagine that at the beginning of the timeline, the number of people that would have lived 9 lives, this would have been very, very rare. But a few hundred years ago, the number of people that were born who were on their 9th life, would be very high. Hence, the frequency would be more like beep, 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 rather than the beep, beep in that tone. I think I made a timeline using 8 billion souls. Now, at the beginning of the timeline, the Matrix might have just gone through 8 billion of these souls, giving everyone a chance, and then would have brought back some slightly sooner than others, depending on what happened in their life, or depending on the need for them to come back and start teaching or guiding the other souls in a direction. At the beginning of the timeline, there wouldn't have been that many people coming down and living another life, because there were so many souls to go through that the gaps between people's lives were very, very big. But as the population has gotten bigger, the frequency has gotten bigger. Why? Because the ones that have had many lives are coming down more often, quicker. They're not staying in the sort of pause state or the spirit realm state for as long, so they're coming down at a higher frequency because there's less gaps in between it. So it's causing a higher frequency, because if you imagine a city full of people and there's a number above their head, a few thousand years ago there would have been a lot of people walking around with the number 1, 2 or 3 on their head. Maybe a couple of people would have had 6, 7 or 8 or perhaps even 9. But 100 years ago there would have been a lot of people walking around with the number sort of 9, 10, 11 on their head. And this is the sort of frequency, and the higher the number, the more lives you have, and the more lives you've had, the more experience, the more knowledge you're going to be able to tap into because of all your past lives and the experience that you gained from that. And you can pass this on to other people and tell them about better techniques on how to remember things or how to learn things or how to do things. So this is why the frequency is getting higher. Now, I believe this channeling that this guy does is actually just him using the same techniques to talk extremely fast and explain himself based on things that he's learned in his past. So I don't think this is him changing frequency to tap into something spiritual. I think it's just him trying to shape himself in a way and developing some sort of schizophrenia basically over what he believes he's saying. I'm God and I don't actually believe in frequency changes. I know that doesn't mean that it's not the truth. Maybe I just haven't gone down that path, but I'm God. I don't actually think that how you talk is about your frequency. I think it's about your experience of being able to talk and being able to answer questions or speak more intelligently, with more insight, with more knowledge, with more memories. The older you are, the more memories you have. When you die, okay, you lose all of this and you get reborn again, but you are more intelligent, because even though you consciously don't have any of these memories that you had in a past life, your soul is a little bit more developed, hence is able to understand logic and reason better. I don't think it's got anything to do with frequency, but yeah. He is channeling the spirits, and according to the spirits, yeah, it's accurate what he just said, even though I don't actually know what he said.
I haven't thought about it accurate. They're saying accurate.
Okay.
The way you said, not quite the way you said it, but it's accurate. But it is accurate. Things exist at different levels of tone. Things exist at different levels of tone. Ideas are often accessed. Ideas are often accessed from the higher field by those who can attend to them, by those who can attend to them. They're often brought forth. They're often brought forth, often ignored, often disputed or refuted, often disputed or refuted until humanity catches up to it, You have the ability to do so many things. You have the ability to do many things, to do many things before you have the ability to make them so, You could always do things. You could always do things that you rely on science for now, and you've created science, and you've created a science that supports your imagination, What you've never done is look at the physical body, and the energetic bodies,
So that is just an example of his channeling, this extremely fast talking, and his answers just isn't relating at all to the question that was asked. I don't know how he does it. It seems like something Russell Brand would do, so it definitely does seem like insanity. So I'm assuming that he's building some kind of schizophrenia. He's building some type of schizophrenic personality. That's what he's forming, which is why I would encourage him not to do this, because if you actually broke it down what he was saying and actually think about it, you'd realize that, okay, he's not wrong about everything, but he's not understanding anything either. I think a lot of people have this belief that if you are able to talk really fast, then you're able to say real intelligence, and you're probably channeling something because you're channeling some sort of information that's coming from somewhere nowhere, because you can possibly talk or think in the way to the speed that you're talking, because the fact that you're talking so fast is obviously clear that you're getting your information from someone else. I mean, there's a lot of people that kind of believe that if you talk really fast, I know Eminem is one of those ones. He's got a really big ability to talk fast and doesn't mess up his words, and because of that he's very, very talented, and he is. But there's a lot of people who would think that if you're able to talk this fast, then you're obviously getting your information from somewhere else, and you're obviously channeling the spirits. And so I feel like he's developed some sort of belief that where he believes that if he talks really, really fast, then he can prove that the information that he's getting is not actually coming from him, but it's coming from somewhere else. But really, I think he's just not able to understand that maybe he does actually have quite a lot of intelligence, but he's just trying to show something to prove that this intelligence isn't coming from him, it's coming from somewhere higher up. And I feel like it's almost like an ego sense. He's building up a large sense of ego that makes him feel like he's more special if he talks really fast, but in reality you're not really special or more important if you talk very fast. And just because you're able to talk really fast, that doesn't mean you're getting information from spirits. That doesn't mean that spirits from another realm are contacting you. No, it doesn't. And if you repeat yourself too, repeating yourself does not make you more intelligent. You can repeat yourself as many times as you want, and just because you're repeating yourself, that doesn't mean you're more intelligent. Oh, but just for the information, if you think that I'm crazy, don't worry, don't think I'm crazy, because it's not I'm me that's crazy. It's the spirits are talking to me. It's the spirits are talking for me. See, the spirits are talking for me. This is not me talking. This is just the spirits that are talking for me. Don't blame me. Okay.
You could always do things that you rely on science for now, that you rely on science for now, and you've created science, and you've created a science that supports your imagination, What you've never done is look at the physical body, and the energetic bodies, and the energetic bodies, so we're actually able to see what you're actually capable of, and that is what is coming now, and that is the work that is coming now. These achievements, which will inform medicine and commerce are already present in the higher field and the higher.
Okay, calm down. That was giving me a headache. But you can see that if you're an idiot, you might listen to that and think that there's intelligence to it. But if you actually stop and think and break it down and think, what is he actually saying? You'll see it in a different light. So let's go from the beginning and break it up.
I haven't thought about it accurate. They're saying accurate.
Okay.
The way you said, not quite the way you said it, but it's accurate. But it is accurate. Things exist at different levels of tone. Things exist at different levels of tone.
Okay, so things exist at different levels of tone. I mean, songs exist on different tones, yes, but not things, not items. I mean, I guess color and stuff has a different wavelength, but it's not a tone. Not everything has a sound. Some things don't have sounds. Hence the belief that everything exists at a different level of tone is not the truth.
Ideas are often accessed. Ideas are often accessed from the higher field by those who can attend to them, by those who can attend to them.
Okay, it's really annoying how you're saying everything twice, but ideas come from the brain, and yes, this actually does come from the spirit, so you can access these ideas, but at the same time you have to have the motivation and skill to be able to fulfill them, and you need funding and other people to back it and support it and help you, and you have to actually seek them, and you have to be able to tell the difference between a good idea and a bad idea. There are plenty of films that I really did not like in the last few years, and they had access to imagination to do that, but was it part of the bigger plan? Was there a necessary need for some of these films? I loved the Inside Out film, but I didn't really like the others. Hence, it wasn't a necessary need, some of them. I love Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but this new movie that they had didn't really do it for me. But were they able to make money from it, make a job? Maybe. There isn't always a big plan behind ideas. You just have to tap into your creativity and then fulfill it. And you also need the money and finance and a group of people to help you build up these ideas and to play them out on whatever you want to do. And so it's like you're giving information, but you're not giving information.
They're often brought forth, often ignored, often disputed or refuted, until humanity catches up to it.
What you've just said there is exactly what you'd expect to see someone say in the average mental home. The question was about frequency, and is frequency increasing over time? And you're now saying it's often brought forth, ignored, disputed. Yes, people are arguing over whether or not frequency is more important than knowledge, or does knowledge come from frequency? I think spiritualists might ask this question all the time, but I don't think so. I think you have to gain knowledge first and then you gain frequency. by how many things you are able to remember. The more you repeat something, the better you are able to say it, and the more knowledge you have, the more knowledge you're able to give people. So if people are asking you a question, you can look back and think, well, how did I answer this question before? And if you've answered the same question 100 times before, you'd be able to answer it in a much better, more strict, more straight to the point way. And then you say, are humanity catching up? It's almost like you are talking for the aliens or whoever you're talking for, and they're asking this question. It's almost like you're trying to portray these people or these spirits as being something far more superior to humans, and maybe you're doing this because you want humans to look up to you for having this knowledge that these sort of more intelligent beings have. But are they really more intelligent, or are you just insulting humans by making out that these spirits you're listening to are more intelligent? For an intelligent person, it's hard to fake intelligence.
Paul, I mean, when our first conversation happened, I was fascinated with your kind of reluctant channel energy that you have. You're just kind of like, this is what I do. This is my life now. I kind of asked for it in that kind of way. And it's been years now. How long have you been channeling the guides?
They began dictating books through me in 2009, but I've been working with them since I was in my, I would say, early 30s. So it's a long time. It's 30 years of doing this kind of work. But it really developed. How I work now is completely different than how it started. When I started, I was hearing fragments of information for other people, or I was hearing instructions for working with energy, and I was really developed, I think, by them through my continued willingness to keep showing up for this stuff.
It's like you want to portray this air of intelligence and get people to look up to you, and you think by talking incredibly fast you can get this audience of people kind of worshipping your views and stuff. I mean, that's your first book was called This Is the Word, which reminds me of the Word of God. So it's like you want people to see you as being God, and you're doing this by channeling spirits and making out that the spirits are, far more intelligent than you are, and you need to listen to you to find out what these spirits are saying to you and to them through you. I think it's a self-ego thing that you've got, and it's forming a mental illness, because this is just repetitive, random rants that they're not really teaching anyone anything.
You have the ability to do so many things. You had the ability to do anything, to do many things before you had the ability to make them so, to make them so. You could always do things. You could always do things that you rely on science for now, that you rely on science for now.
If you take that, for example, all you've said is that you have the ability to do things. I'm pretty sure that everyone on the planet knows that they have the ability to do things. Okay, some people are in wheelchairs, some people are paralyzed, so they don't have that much ability. But yeah, it's like, this is what you'd expect like a channeler that's giving a psychic reading to say, you have the ability to do something, you're going to do something, and you have the ability to do so. It's like, well, yeah, everyone has the ability to do something. And what's the next part? You can always do things to rely on science. Yeah, a lot of people do that. They rely on science. I mean, like food and what's an example of relying on science? I don't actually know. Or relying on science is if you get ill, relying on medication. Does that count as relying on science? Oh wait, cars, technology, microwaves. Even if you only got a few minutes to eat something and go, then you can rely on a microwave. You can rely on the washing machine. You can rely on appliances and toilets to flush and stuff like this. You can rely on the plumbing system. So yeah, I think that counts as relying on science, but this is just general. I don't know, you're saying things that sound intelligent, and then if you think about it, it's either just common knowledge or, I don't know, just very random, loose teachings, and you're supposed to be talking about frequency and why frequency has increased over the years. That's what the question's supposed to be about.
When you've created science, and you've created a science that supports your imagination,
Yes, the world has created microwaves and things that people have imagined and made real through ideas, and with the help of God, I believe. So what
you've never done is look at the physical body, and the energetic bodies, and the energetic bodies would actually...
There are a lot of doctors that have studied the physical body, so I don't know what you're talking about there. There are a lot of spiritualists that like to pretend that they know about the chakras and the spiritual body, and they have made up imagination about what the spiritual body is like. And I think they've also created fictional stories about what a chakra is. I mean, to me, a chakra is actually just an event in your life that should change you and make you a bit more aware or change your path, but doesn't. And you can have many of these chakras and still not change, and then you'll get one that finally makes you look back at all the points in your life where some spirit was trying to wake you up and you just didn't see it, and then suddenly you'd be like, shit, I should have seen it. Okay, I need to go down a different path. Or, you know, perhaps you're in a relationship and there have been plenty of warning signs that the relationship should change and it just hasn't, because you've kept seeing the wrong things in the person, and then suddenly something bad happens and you're like, right, I should have seen the warning signs and I should have got away from this guy sooner. But yeah, a chakra, I guess, is something like that. But the spiritualists, I think, have turned it into something else. But yeah, that doesn't mean what they believe is the truth, because I don't think there really is a spiritual body. I think it's just soul and spirit, and you are talking to your personal spirit, or talking for your personal spirit, but you're claiming that it's someone else's personal spirit because you want more people to look up to you.
Field, once some of you begin to access them, once some of you begin to access them, they make themselves available to all. They make themselves available to all. They see the common field. They seed the common field.
Okay, so I'm God, and I guess I have a common spirit that is like a common field because it connects with everyone's spirit. But yeah, people need to access their own personal spirit and not start making up delusions or talking extremely fast. I mean, I think if you were saying all this on a slower, more slow-based tone, you know, it would be a lot more realistic and you'd be able to explain things better. You're not explaining anything right now.
Now the common field is what we know. Now the common field is the reality you know, the upper room which we teach.
No, sorry, I don't agree with that. The common field is not the reality that you know. The common field is my spirit and my spirit linking with everyone else's spirit on earth to form some sort of common ground between people. But you don't know me and your spirit doesn't know me. Or maybe it does and it's deliberately inverting things that you say because you are ignoring the fact that God is not what you think it is. So you're kind of making up things that sound intelligent, but really you're missing out me like all the other spiritualists do.
The upper room, which we teach, is where you align to, is where you align to, where such things are available.
I don't know what you're talking about when you talk about the upper room. I think you're talking about your higher self and trying to connect with your higher self, but you don't really know that, so you're just calling it random terms such as the upper room that is available to everyone, which doesn't really make any sense, because how do you gain access to this upper room in your telling? You know, it doesn't make sense. But if I say that actually this upper room is actually just your higher self and how you will be when you leave the timeline at the end of this timeline, or at the end if you make it to another planet, you know, however you leave that timeline, that is your higher self, and you do have to try and connect with it and do what it wants is best for you to get to that stage. And I don't really know, because everyone has a different path, but and unfortunately I don't believe that everyone will turn into a god, so a lot of people's path will end in death, but you have to be the ones that shape your path so that yours doesn't end in death. Yeah, you're not explaining it properly. And I also have to add that there might actually be an in-between world where you learn to create timelines before you actually get given a planet, but I don't know. I can't say anything about this. All I know is right now people are stuck in this timeline, and I don't think you will leave it until I allow you to leave it. That's how I feel. I believe if you left too soon, you would only fade and die. This world and the reality here is actually what keeps you alive and what keeps you able to have dreams and then wake up again. I think without this physical body, you probably will just fade and die. But one day in the very long-term future, your soul might be strong enough to survive without needing a physical body. I don't know. I can't say anything because I can't see the future. One thing I feel strongly is that you should see Earth as your home so long as you have a physical body.
Available and paramount to new creations, to new creation. You're not sipping the old wine. When you are not sipping from the old wine, you will discover that the old wine tasted bitter, that the old wine tasted bitter. When you
I wish you would have just said that the new world is going to be a lot better than the old world. But it's like by talking in poetry, you think people are going to respect it more, and it's the truth. Jesus talked in poetry, and people seem to respect that more for some unknown reason.
Go to the higher. When you go to the higher, what seemed obvious in the small self, what seemed obvious in the small self no longer seems obvious, no longer seems obvious.
That is true. For example, with Christianity, the belief is that God will forgive you if you kill his son, but that makes absolutely no sense. But if you realize that overpopulation is the reason why the world is in chaos right now, because there's too many people here, suddenly killing the Son of God actually makes sense as to how that's going to save the world. But you don't really explain things properly. You're just preaching the false idea that in the future new knowledge will be given and people will look back at the old knowledge and see it as foolishness. But because you're not explaining what you're actually talking about, people might start listening to this, believing it and misunderstanding it. The new knowledge that you get is going to be the greater, more intelligent knowledge, and people will change. And sometimes that's not how it is. There's going to be a new belief that Jesus wasn't the real Christ, that I am the real Christ, and that the only way the world can be saved is if I go through the sacrifice. I am the cow, I am the red heifer, I am Israel, I am the one that needs to be sacrificed for you to get into heaven. When this belief is preached, a lot of people will buy this religion and believe in it, because they'll look back and think, well, how can the world be saved before when the world was in so much problems? If Jesus wasn't the real Christ and I am, maybe this is how you save the world, through my suffering. If people heard about this and me being Christ, people might be like, Torturana, and people are going to believe that what they have now is more truthful than what they had in the past. So they're going to see what their past beliefs were as being bitter and their new beliefs as being the truth. But that's not actually the truth. The truth is the truth, and it can go in both ways. So you not explaining things is actually not helping the matter. In fact, all religions are like this. It's about giving people knowledge without actually giving knowledge, but making it very open to a bunch of different things.
Something new appears, and something new then appears, period, missing period.
So then a lot of these avatars that come down, or I could say down for lack of a better word, but that incarnate on earth, that came with these teachings, Buddha, Jesus, many powerful yogis over the years who've come up with these teachings. Seems to be a pattern that the teachings are not accepted right away, other than a few. And then it takes years and years and years before some of these radical ideas, when Jesus was walking, the stuff that he was talking about were extremely radical. So much so that apparently he got killed and crucified for it. But is that kind of what happens with all new ideas and the big monster ideas?
The only thing that these people have in common is that people don't like worshipping other people. When it comes to God, they want to believe that they are God, or that they are with God, or that they are on God's side, or they can talk for God. Now, if someone is walking the earth and claiming to be the Son of God, or someone who can talk for a figure, they don't like these figures. But if those figures are dead and they can use these figures to channel them and say, I'm talking for that person, then suddenly they do want to give power to that person. So it's not that what Jesus, I'm not talking about Buddha, because I think he had a bit more teachings that I agreed with. He was more about peace and stuff. But when it comes to Jesus and Muhammad, if these people were alive, they would never support these people. Why? Because this is someone else that is claiming to be better and bigger than them. But now if this person had died and they can use these people as evidence that they have some sort of truth in them because they are following these people, they can give power to themselves. And this is a sort of common ground that all religions have formed. They've created some fictional character based on some real character, and they are trying to elevate themselves using these fictional characters. Now this guy is doing just the same as all the other religions do, which is that he's taking an idea of these beings coming and incarnating on earth. Maybe he's saying he's one of them, I don't know what he's saying, but he's definitely saying he's talking for them, and he's using this belief that he's talking for otherworldly beings as a way of elevating himself.
Just saying generally they come to several people at once, or several ideas are seated around the world, and are understood through different language, or different systems are built up, or different systems are built up around them. That's why you have many religions. That's why you have many religions. The truth of each religion.
What he's saying here is not intelligent, it's not smart, it's not like something you should worship. He's just saying gibberish. He's saying these beings come to people at once, they're all over the world, they're seated all over the world. I think he said they're not destroyed through different language, there's different systems built up around them. The truth is these beings do not exist. He's just creating some sort of delusion in his head. I think it's schizophrenia. I don't think schizophrenia is a mental condition that people can't control. I think if you're smart and able to control these delusions, you can get rid of your schizophrenia. And I feel like he doesn't want to get rid of them because he's too busy benefiting off them, writing books, getting this sense of grandeur because of this schizophrenia that he's developed and is allowing to form in him. But yeah, he's not bringing truth. I don't think he's talking about real beings. He's just making shit up and doing the same thing that all these religions do. I mean, he's asked him a question about Jesus and Muhammad, and now he's just talking about just different systems and then talking all over the place, and I don't know, it's madness. That's how I see it. But I do think there's a real spiritual reason for why he's doing this. I think the spirit is helping him to form this belief in otherworldly beings. Why? Because there is going to be another sort of false religion that's going to encourage people to want to go and seek the Galactic Federation, to seek the Pleiadians, to go after the Galatians or Galactians or whatever you want to call them. Heard of lion beings as well. I have no idea what that is, but if they think it's got something to do with Leo, I'm pretty sure that the Leo star constellation is a swan, not a lion. But anyway, the problem is, I don't have any trust in this world, the people, or the government, that maybe you're waiting for me to die before going to, I don't know, create another religion just to benefit you. I mean, I have a whole bunch of singers and celebrities, and therefore lifting me up also helps lift them up as well, because they are kind of channeling the spirit through their songs and stuff, so I'm sure I'll get some support from them. But if that's the truth, why have they been ignoring me for 12 or 11 and a half years? I don't know.
The truth of each religion is actually implicit and within the structure, and is within the structure that was built around it. It was built around to be focused on structure, but you focus on the structure, not the original idea,
What the hell are you trying to say? The truth of religion is that it's actually implicit. I have no idea what the word implicit means. But it was within the structure, but you focus around the structure because it was within the structure. I think that's what you just said.
And is within the structure that was built around it. It was built around to be focused on structure, but you focus on the structure, not the original idea.
Not the original idea. You do realize saying something twice does not make it the truth. The timeline has been set. The religions have been formed to gather different markets, different people that have different beliefs. But yes, there seems to be kind of a common ground on these different religions because people want to form some kind of unity using religion. They are the original idea, but I think that, the timeline has just been way, way longer than it should have been, and I should have come here a long time ago, but I obviously couldn't for I would say for some unknown reason, but that's not the truth. I think people just didn't want me and have completely rejected me and constantly go on about wanting a male god, and they just didn't want a female god. Hence, I've had to just wait, and now I'm realizing, shit, there's too many people here. You have made plastic, which is good, but at the same time, you're killing Earth, and I need to do something about it. All spiritualists are in a way helping me because they're helping me to destroy Christianity, which is what I need, for I want people to see this old religion as being something that's not good enough for them, because it's obviously portraying a really evil, disgusting God, and there's obviously a bunch of lies in it, like the world was not made in 6 days and stuff like this. So you are helping the movement that is trying to kill Christianity. Other people are helping build up this movement of Christianity, but this needed to happen because this shows that the world is ready for the next stage in life. So your role is to more or less just kill Christianity, which is what you're doing. The problem is you're not actually promoting me. I feel like you're someone who has probably died from Christianity in your past life, hence why you're now moving on and trying to kill it. But I feel like you also have a slight hatred for God because you keep wanting to believe that God doesn't exist. God is within everyone. God is this unity that lives inside everyone. God is not a real person. God is not someone who's sitting back thinking, why the fuck is everyone worshipping a male? Why don't they want me? God is not that person, and therefore you've created a fictional belief of these beings in your head because you want to believe that, you are special and there is something out there, and okay, it's not a God, but it's something that's trying to contact you, but it's not a God. I feel that you might feel let down by God, and therefore if it turns out that all there is are actually just spiritual beings, you can use that as a way of saying, okay, well, God isn't helping me, but these spiritual beings are trying to, and they just don't have that much power.
Yeah, there's usually not one human being. There is usually not one human being to carry the message. To carry the message, it's actually seated on the plane. It's actually seated on the plane, and those who can claim it, and those who can claim it and nurture it, will sing it, will sing it. It will become their song. It will become their song. And as their song is sung by others, and as their song is sung by others, the world has changed. The world is changed through the presence of the song, through the presence of the song, less so the individual, the prophet or Messiah, by the song that was sung through them, but the song that was sung through them, period.
See, with that, there are probably a lot of people who could listen to that and think, yes, this guy is channeling spirits and he's bringing truthful, knowledgeable, insightful information. But for me, I just hear a bunch of gibberish. And what you're saying is not the truth. I'm Christ, I'm God.
Yeah, there's usually not one human being. There is usually not one human being to carry the message. To carry the message, it's actually seated on the plane.
There is one human being that can bring the message, and that's me. I'm not Jesus, I'm not Muhammad, I'm not Buddha, I'm the real Christ, the real God, and I'm the one who brings the real message.
It's actually seated on the plane, and those who can claim it, and those who can claim it and nurture it, will sing it, will sing it. It will become their song. It will become their song. And as their song is sung by others.
What you say there is nothing but gibberish poetry. But if you ever do watch this video, just know that I'm not making this video to insult you. I'm making this video because a lot of what you say actually goes against Christ and goes against what I would want to teach. Hence, I need to teach it. Why? Because I need to try and prove that people who are claiming to talk for spirits or spirits from another realm, they're not talking for anything else other than themselves, and they're just managing to take all the information that they believe in, all the information that they see as truth and wisdom, and they've just kind of compilated it in a way that makes it sound like someone else is saying it, but it's not the truth. This is how the Bible was formed. They took their beliefs, their religion, their views, and they worded it in a way that sounded quite intelligent so that people would be convinced that God was speaking when really God was not speaking. Okay, the spirit might have been picking up on truth, likewise you're picking up on truth, but you're also picking up on lies that are actually just setting up some kind of death cult because it's leading people away from the truth. People in the Bible preached that God was a male because they were trying to lead people away from God. But if that Bible would have talked about God being a female, the leaders and the rulers would have just rejected that Bible, hence would have created other religions involving multiple gods. And if I would have come to a world that believes in multiple gods, I too would be thinking, where the hell are these other gods? Who are they? And people might not accept me because they wouldn't be looking for or waiting for the one God. But by leading people away from God, they were actually just creating a false God, keeping me away. But I wanted to stay awake. Why? Because I didn't want to live on a planet full of idiots that hated me. If you can convince people that the beings from the other realm are, far smarter than me, far wiser than me, and know far more things than I do, then great. But I think it's a false intelligence that you're promoting. Yeah.
And it's so true that there's, so, if you start looking at the world religions, the great prophets, many of them are just saying the same thing in different flavorings. Yeah. Jesus and Buddha were talking about a lot of the similar ideas, but it needed to come into the East. Then then there's Hinduism, and then there's Europe, and then they all had to come in a certain in different packaging, if you will. And these entities decided to come back to help us, essentially.
No, they're saying yes and no, not so to help, but to offer what is already yours, what is already yours. You have to say yes to what is already yours. You have to say yes to what is already yours.
You have to say yes to what is already yours. That is so vague because people are thinking, what the hell are we saying yes to? I don't know. The question was, are they here to help? And your response is, they are here to give you what is already yours. You just need to say yes to it. I mean, what the hell?
You're not being bequeathed a gift or being shown what's already there. You are being shown what was already there that you chose to ignore or were fearful of, period.
What are they trying to show you? I mean, you're the one that's contacting them, not other people. So I don't know what you're saying, really. Because it's like you're saying that they're here to show us the way, and yet you're the only one that's being able to hear them.
So in other words, that they are here to show us as an example of what is capable of being done with us in many ways.
We're here to teach you who you are. We're here to teach you who you are, and indeed have always been, period.
sorry, weird spirit, but you don't know me. You can't tell me who I am because you don't know me. You know, this would be like some random stranger saying, I'm here to tell you who you're supposed to date. It's like, well, you don't know me, so how do you know who I'm supposed to date? You know, this is nonsense what you're preaching.
Got it. And that's the thing that I always try to talk about, because people, again, see what you're doing and they go, oh, you have to be born special. But we're all capable of this kind of work. If this is I'm using you as an example, but we're all, Jesus said it. Everything I could do, you could do.
That's exactly what he said. Yeah. And
I'm pretty sure that's not what he said. Anything I can do, you can do just the same. I can raise the dead. I can turn water into wine. I can release demons from people. Your turn. I'm pretty sure he didn't say that. No, he did not say that. He said, I am the way, the truth, the life, and you can only get to the Father through me. That is not preaching equality. That's preaching I'm better than you. A.J. Miller probably preached equality, but yeah, the Bible got changed into something else because they wanted to godify him so that they could pretend to be speaking for him and godify themselves.
And I think that's a truth in the teaching that gets buried muddled a lot. So we all have capacity. The God within me, whatever you want to call that, the guides I work with call it the monad. Sometimes they'll call it the Christ within, or the divine self, or the true self. There's lots of different names. I don't care which one we use. Is actually the same as it is within you and within everybody. You know, the idea of soul as being particular and having a fingerprint, I understand. But the inherent divine is of source. And the guides say the God within you and me and everybody else is always there. Right. But we've denied it. And it also knows itself as of the other. So the God within me knows itself as not separate from the God within you and the God within all things. And that's where it gets really kind of trippy and mind-blowing if you think about it.
That what you believe there, though, sounds like all it is when it comes to God. You don't believe in a real God that's separate from you. You think that God is in you, it's in everyone else, and that is what God is. God is in everyone, but it's part of everyone, hence you don't actually believe in a real God. You don't believe that someone like me is going to come and be like, you're not talking to spirits, you're not talking to beings from another world, you're just talking to your own brain and trying to come up with explanations about why things are the way that they are, and you're trying to guide people as well by giving them lies and make people idolize you, and you're claiming to have knowledge about God, but you're saying that God is just something that lives inside everyone, and that's all God is. God isn't going to speak to you and tell you that you're wrong. Actually, I am God, and I'm in you. Yes, a part of me is in you, my spirit is guiding you, but it's not you. You are not me. We are not the same person.
So it's interesting. So essentially that you and I can walk. We're walking.
Yeah.
At a rudimentary level, we can walk, we can talk, we do things. But when we're born, we don't know that we can walk until we see other people's do it. And then we start to try to figure it out.
Absolutely right.
Or figure it out ourselves. This is a very base, materialistic, grounded view of what we're trying to explain. So in similar, when you see someone like an avatar, like a Jesus or a Buddha, talking about this, like, no, you can connect directly to source. All the answers are within you. It's essentially trying to convince people that, like, no, this is great. This is a guide, not this book, but all books, all knowledge, all teachings. But the true answers are within you if you're able to go inward to connect to the divine. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but it's so frustrating because people go, well, how? And I try, and I don't get it, and I don't know how, and I've been there.
I do really like the interviewer on this video. I think he's very rational and he's not lying about anything. He's just being truthful, and he's far more closer to truth than the other guy. But yeah, that is a false belief, because it's the belief that to find the truth, all you need to do is seek inside yourself. Now, Christians seek inside themselves and they find Jesus. Buddha people find Buddha. Islam people find Muhammad. You know, if you told people that to find truth, all they need to do is seek inside themselves, they are not going to find the truth. They're going to find whatever they want to believe, whatever suits them best, and they're going to believe whatever takes their fancy the most, basically. So yeah, that is a very false teaching, to believe that all you need to do is look inside yourself. That is not the truth. All you need to do is find God, the real Christ, who's on earth, trying to contact people, all you need to do is find her and listen to what she has to say.
Okay.
You know, I totally get that. And when you hear, well, Jesus said do this or Buddha said do this, I mean, you see them as instructions, but you can, people who really get it, I expect, see them as examples.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus was teaching socialism, really. I mean, feed the poor, you know. I'm welcome your neighbor in. I mean, it's just, all that stuff is real grounded truth.
Correction, it's only truth if God likes this world and I don't. I don't help the poor because I don't feel the poor would help me. I've let a lot of people in my house, and I did massage for a very long time. That was my job. But if the majority of them only come to me because they want to wank, should I really let them in? No. Why did I? It's because I had no choice. That was the only job this world would let me have.
There's nothing woo-woo about it. It's really simple.